Bienvenidos a Taboo Talks.
Latina edition.
Yo soy Cynthia,
And I'm Jeanette.
and we're here to create a safe space where Latinas can be real, raw, and share their authentic stories. Este es un lugar donde celebramos nuestras raíces, but also confrontamos esos tabús que nos afectan.
En este show vamos a romper el silencio sobre las expectativas culturales y tradicionales que nos han marcado y lo hemos hecho con conversaciones honestas y profundas. Nuestra misión es inspirar, empoderar y conectar a todas las mujeres latinas y lo que hacen nuestras experiencias únicas.
So, whether you're tuning in to hear a powerful story or joining the conversation, this is a space to embrace who you really are. Ahora, déjame presentarle a nuestra increíble invitada de hoy, Jennifer Marie Lee, una content creator y contadora from el Bronx, New York, ahora viviendo en Atlanta, Georgia. Jennifer is a mama of 3 boys y una mujer con una pasión para hacer reír a la gente y compartir su alegría. She's heavily influenced by her Dominican heritage y su familia única, que siempre ha sido su foundation.
And now let's welcome our second guest, Jenny Contreras. Jenny es una mujer vibrante y dinámica, specializing in hair, fashion, and beauty. Also a beautiful mother. As an Afro-Latina, her brand is all about celebrating her rich cultural heritage and personal style, blending a traditional con lo moderno. She's aquí to make a statement y crear un espacio donde las voces Afro-Latinas are authentically heard. Chicas, we're so excited to have you here. Bienvenidas.
Gracias, gracias.
Hey everyone.
Y ahora que conocemos un poquito más de nuestra invitada, let's jump right into los temas de hoy. Primero, vamos a estar hablando de cómo romper con esas cultural expectations que muchas veces no ponemos límites o nos dicen cómo debiéramos ser.
Y luego redefinir lo que significa ser una mujer latina hoy en día, porque sabemos que ser latina es mucho más que lo que el mundo piensa. Así que prepárense para una conversación real, profunda y llena de power. Let's dive in.
Breaking from cultural expectation. Now, we all know that growing up, there are these cultural pressures that sometimes feel impossible to escape. We're expected to act, look, and even think a certain way because of our backgrounds, right?
So, to kick things off, Jennifer, ¿qué expectativas culturales sintieron que fueron las más fuertes cuando estaban creciendo? ¿Y cómo afectaron esas expectativas la forma en que se vieron a ustedes mismas? Take the mic, ladies.
Jenny, you got this one?
I got you.
You look, I'm like, Jenny thanks a día. She's like, whoo, I'm ready. Dale, dale.
Thank you so much, Jeanette, Cynthia, for this incredible opportunity. And we'll dive right in. So, for me, I came from a generation of women that were really trying to hone in on independencia. So, my grandmother was very, very big on me with education. Like, I didn't have an option. She's like, you have to study, you have to go to school. And as a young person, and I remember 7 years old, I'm like, wow, what's up? Why? But esta presión, ¿qué es lo que está pasando? And it wasn't until recent times that I was able to understand la presión to get an education. It never stopped. I'm like, I almost didn't get to explore hobbies because at my frontal was you have to get us out of here through education. You have to make it. And although my mom was able to get an associate in Puerto Rico and my aunt has a bachillerato, it still wasn't enough for her. She wanted to see the highest of education because she herself didn't make it past elementary school. So it took some time to really figure out, is this really my voice or is this a cultural pressure to pursue the degrees that I pursue? So luckily they were great at supporting the things I wanted to study, but that pressure was intense because it wasn't just abuela, it was titi, it was mommy, it was the tias, and I'm like, but none of y'all got degrees. What's going on?
They want you to be better than them.
Yeah.
It makes
Sin el
sense though.
blueprint.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sin
It
el
makes
blueprint. Mandándome para esta big institution y yo, ok, señores. ¿Y cómo vamos a pagar esto?
It's that pressure, right?
Y que ayúdame con esta aplicación. No, yo no sé.
Yo no sé.
Yo no sé inglés.
Yo no sé qué es lo que tú necesitas, pero yo no
Yo
sé.
no sé. Di que, espérate, búscame los lentes, que no veo bien.
Es verdad.
Y en esos
It
tiempos
makes
no había
sense.
Google Translate, so eso averíguate tú, busca el
Yeah.
librito que yo te compré en el 99.
Not Dollar Tree, not Dollar Tree.
Okay. So I'm grateful, but it was intense. And by the grace of God, being up in United States of America and being in the mental health profession, I was able to get connected to services. And, I'm so grateful that we're having these conversations because it's still happening. There's a lot of young people in higher ed that are trying to navigate and look for people that look like us to say, hey, ¿cómo yo hago esto?
Sí.
Yeah, that is so true. It's funny because for me, I'm like, I don't feel like I was put the pressure of school, but it was there. But it was more like, tú sabes cocinar, tú sabes limpiar, tú sabes hacer esto, tú sabes hacer, no te vas a casar. And I'm like, how am I not going to get married? And then it's funny because from that, I would be like, you know what? Well, I'm gonna be well educated. I'm gonna be rich and have a butler and have a driver. So I don't need
I don't need any of that.
I don't need to learn how to cook. I don't need to learn how to drive. I don't need to learn how to do any of this.
El futuro me va a
Eventually,
ayudar.
yeah. You know, eventually I'm like, you kind of do. I'm not rich. I'm not. All of these things are just fairy tale. So yeah, so it was like one of those things that was like, well, you're pushing me to get married, pero espérate, yo no me quiero casar. Like I'm still
Mm,
young in my
Yeah.
head, right? Yeah, you're still young because you're a teenager, but parents are already thinking about that because, like, for example, my parents got married at 22. At 22 years old, what were you guys doing,
It was different times then. Yeah.
right? I
mhm.
have an aunt that got married at 16. I'm like,
What?
16. I was
That's
still watching
crazy.
cartoons at 16
How
That's
did I
right.
after watching a
forget that?
scary movie. So era uno de esas
That's right.
sí,
Yeah.
una de esas cosas que es like bueno, la vida mía va a ser diferente que la tuya in a sense. So it was like, I guess pushing that and then pushing education as well and all those things. But they like stir the pot. They're sitting there like, "Ven, vamos a hacerte arroz, vamos a hacer esto." But it's like feeding all these things into our heads. I remember my mom one time would be like, yo te voy a mandar para Italia para que consiga un novio en Italia. And I was like, I don't even like, no offense, Italians are beautiful. Me personally, that wasn't my taste, right? Everyone has their taste. That wasn't my flavor. El sabor mío era chocolate, no era
Y
vainilla.
tú,
So it was one of those things that it was like, but why Italy? But this was like in my teenage years, and I'm like, yo no quiero ir para Italia, whatever. And then it was like, she would always make those comments, and she's like, sí, porque los italianos le gustan las morenitas, sí, con el pelo enrizado and whatever. And I'm like, girl, a todo el mundo le gusta la morenita. Yo soy el flavor de todo el mundo.
man.
No, but
And
it's
it's
true.
so interesting, Jen, because I didn't have that. They weren't.
Yeah.
No, because they
It
didn't
was
want
like
that.
the
They
flip.
want, yeah.
It was like the flip. Like they expected me to observe, but I was like a social work from early on. There's like, esa va a ser una abogada. Esa va a ser
Oh
la
no,
mejor
because
del pueblo. So they're like,
I'm gonna let
marido
Jeanette
no lo
talk
vamos a buscar.
to chime in on
Pero
that.
in college, then I felt the social pressure porque las mujeres se estaban casando. Y yo digo, yo lo que quiero es un diploma, mamita. Yo lo que quiero es un 4 anillos, un Audi, búsqueme eso. But with colorism and racism and all these different things that I had to navigate, that there was no blueprint, right? I realized, I'm like, pero ustedes no me están diciendo que me case. Ah, pues, I- then I started to panic, like, oh, am I going to be the rich single auntie? I'm like, no, 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 no. I don't want that. I don't. There's nothing wrong with that. Y'all living the real life. But at 22, 23, I was like, no, I need to be a powerhouse because that's
Yeah.
what it's not seen. Then it also became like a personal mission to be an example for everyone around us because everyone was pushing education, but everyone didn't pursue anything else but motherhood. So for a long time, I was like, I know, yo mejor me voy a quedar jamona
No te-
porque yo no sé qué está pasando. And I had to learn how to domesticate myself, per se, once I was in my own space. And now I'm calling them like, entonces, y la sazón de la familia, ¿para cuándo? And they're like, ¿y tú no, you weren't paying attention? I was reading a book.
That's
You're right.
crazy. Yeah.
You know,
Oh,
and
it's
it's
so
funny
fun.
because we all go through it, right? Differently. Like me growing up, I was the only one in my family that wanted to pursue something that wasn't going to a corporate job or didn't want to have,
Mhm.
Mm.
right?
Oh.
Like my family wanted me to have a degree while still pursuing as a hobby what I was passionate about. A mí siempre me ha gustado el mundo de la actuación, el modelaje. Yo, gracias a Dios, he tenido la oportunidad de trabajar en la televisión, siempre haciendo lo que me ha encantado. But I had to really work on those roots and those beliefs to let go because my family will be like, yeah, you can do that, but don't quit your job. So as I was working then in corporate America, I remember pursuing my passion on the side. And one day when I got laid off from that job and I decided, okay, well, nothing here is set in stone, right? Like I'm gonna actually venture into what I'm passionate about. They're like, no, pero tú estás loca. Like go find a real job. Like this is not gonna be you
Mm.
forever. But you start growing to believe that. Like, okay, well, maybe I'm not meant to do that, right? So I will go to audition and I will do castings and everything, but still in the back of my head, I'm like, okay, let me still apply to jobs. And it's
Yeah.
crazy because la influencia, ¿verdad? Even though they meant well, they still drag you thinking that you're meant to follow their path, but you're not. You're meant to follow your own path.
Yeah.
You're so right.
Yeah, and that's funny because my pressure was a little different. I have an older brother, and for my mom and dad, my dad was in the military, so education to them, like you ladies, was like number one. Like you have to get a degree, and not just any degree, like a top degree, una doctora, like
Mhm.
a lawyer, something, right? But then when I would get home, it would be like, okay, come, let's learn how to cook, but not to my brother. So that pressure to my
Oh,
brother didn't exist. It was only
listen
for
up, brothers.
me.
Listen up.
I know.
It's so true though, yeah.
And I know Jennifer, you have a brother, so I don't know if it was the same for you. And I growing up, I would always say, "Oh, my mom's favorite is my brother," because she never put that pressure on him. And now that I look back, I'm like, well, I don't think that was her favorite. It was just that cultural mindset that she had, that I was the woman, right? So I had to learn how to cook and how to clean and also have the education. And then my brother, she never bothered him for anything. So it's just funny how we all have, the different perspective on that, on that cultural expectation.
I love that you brought that experience. That it makes me think when I used to go to DR in the summer, and my cousins, all the girls were not allowed to come outside until they were done cleaning and cooking,
Yes.
and we're teenagers. And I'm pulling up to the house, I'm vamos para afuera, and they're like, "Ven ayúdame." I'm like, "Mi
No,
mamá me dejó salir para
no.
afuera. Mi mamá me dijo que me saliera a la cocina." I don't know, and we never really got to talk about it. And I used to like it was almost like that, like that jealousy, because my cousins, they're all like, okay, I'm ready to go outside. Like, why can Jen be up and down pa'l colmado, que si la casa de Tatia, y yo aquí faja guayando la yuca.
Yeah.
And now they're all independent. They're all like single mothers that are powerhouses. And it never really dawned on me the pressure of la cocina.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, my brother, man, shout out to my brother, but this man didn't do nothing. Él no hacía nada, ni arreglaba ni una cama.
Yes,
Like,
my
and
brother
then it was one of
too.
those things like, I know mi niño. And it's like, girl, ¿cómo que mi niño? Go put him to, And then he would like get upset, like his job was like taking out the garbage. And I'm like, bro, I got dishes, I have to clean rooms, yo tengo que mapear toda la cosa, y tú aquí complaining about the garbage.
Yeah.
I'm like, ven a fregar.
That
Shout
is
out to him though, but I'm like, but then it's so funny, it's so interesting because he didn't do it when we were growing up, but this man is OCD. He has OCD to the max. Like I went to his house the other day when I was in New York, and I went and flipped the plate the opposite way in his dishwasher, and he's like, "Why would you put the plate that way?" And he like literally made me flip it, and I was like,
you know
"Damn,
what, things change.
all right, things change now." So yeah, but I think in the Latino household you don't notice this, but a lot of boys don't do anything, and
Yeah,
the mom caters to them.
yeah,
Like my mom, she always catered to my, I have a younger brother too, she catered to both of them, and it's like now ellos son tan solteros, tienen que cocinar, tienen que aprender toda esta cosa, and then now they're learning at a bigger age to do these things,
Yeah.
right? Versus us, we're learning at 16,
yeah.
you
True.
know.
There was a
So
time my brother had, he would move in with my mom in and out. I've always lived with my mom until I left later when I got married. And I remember I would have to do my bed. It was something that I grew up doing. So I was like, okay, this is something that we do as we're saying. But then she would go in his room when he would leave to work and do his bed and do his laundry. And I'm like, why? Ay, porque pobrecito. Y yo, but it was so funny because I would help and she would help me, always. But it was always like that, like catering to him. And I'm like, but why? Why not me do my bed? And then if I see yo la dejaba arreglar, she'll be like screaming and she'll be like, ay, Jeanette, vaya, dejaste este cuarto. So, so yeah, it's that. Yeah, it's true. It's that pressure that you feel growing up, right? But at the same
mhm.
time, la cultura de nosotros. It's like generation after generation.
Yeah,
I think that's where it's at.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, that's so funny. I had the same experience with my brother. It was the same exact. And it's funny that you say that, Jennifer, because my brother now, he's the same. He's super OCD. And he's learning to do all these things now as an
mhm.
adult. Like you said, and we learned it at a young age. And I remember my mom, I would come home from, work, college, and she'd be like, "Oh, take me to the supermarket." And I'm like, "Wait, but what about, my brother?" And she's like, "Oh, el pobrecito, he had a
Ay,
long
Dios.
shift." I'm like, "Wait, but I just came home and it's late. I also go to school, work." And then she's like, "Ay, pero el
El
pobrecito." So
pobre.
it's just so funny. Yes, it's just
Even
so
even
funny
now,
how
my mom
it's
she'll
like,
be like, "Oh, can you do this for me?" And I'm like, y tu hijo?" And then she'll be like, "Ay, no, el pobre. Es que I'm like, ese hombre no hace nada. Ese hombre no, ese hombre no hace nada en el trabajo. And then she's like, "No, yo lo oí como estresado." And I was like, estresado de que he was whispering on the phone. So it's like one of those. It's just so funny though. But I get, and it's funny because I'm a mom of 3 boys now, and I'm like, I hope I'm not like that as I get
I
older.
know.
Too. Yeah.
You have to.
Yes.
And I'm like,
I'm
I
already.
hope I'm not like that. I'm like, please don't let me be like that. But then my mom's, it's funny because my husband, my husband is black. He grew up in a single parent home and he's one of 3 boys. And my husband cooks, cleans, does everything, right? And my mom should be so impressed. She'd be like, no, no le diga a nadie que él compra agua o saca la basura. And I'm like, Ma, these are normal things that men do, that men
Yes.
should be doing. No,
And
no le
and
diga
I
a nadie
never
porque
like talk about that because they'd
las
be like,
mujeres se ponen celosas. Shh, no le diga.
right.
Que no te lo quiten.
Para que no te lo quiten. And I'm like, girl, these are normal things. Back then it was different though. Like back then it wasn't like that. It
Yeah.
was like the women did everything in a sense.
Yeah,
So
very true.
I'm
Oh,
like,
that's
this
so
this
funny.
lady, she makes me laugh though. So there you go. That's why all the content. I mean, it's her, my aunts, everyone.
It's the roots.
I hadn't been around an old school tia. Shout outs to my tia. My dad transitioned in September and we had like a little something for him here in the States. And my partner was holding his plate. He had finished.
Ay,
I'm in a conversation. I had not experienced this
Ay.
Jenny,
before.
ay, qué
And
fracaso.
I am like all the way over there. My tia's, Jenny, Jenny. I'm like, ¿qué pasó? Se cayeron los niños. She points at his plate. I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like, oh my God. I had not experienced that. I was like, oh, this was normal for y'all.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
wow. That was a
That's
lot.
I'm like, no, not they know. I'm like, nope, he's serving my plate too. Got it. Like I'm watching the kids, he's serving my plate.
So crazy, right? Yeah, the stuff
Right.
that we had to like break growing up and the beliefs. Because uno se cría de una forma y bueno, you keep the
Yeah.
generation. It comes to
Yeah.
the point time changes that you're like, okay, no, it shouldn't. Like my grandma had 10 kids. And I was like, what? And she
Oh my
survived. Like,
God.
con un pan comía todo el mundo. I know in today's world it's different, but what they meant is like they always hustle and they were always like so united. Now it's like 10 kids. Are you crazy? I only have two. You, Jennifer, you have
We're
three. Like, girl, you all have
I'm
kids and
over
we're
here
like,
drowning. I'm like
Yes.
Como, Dios mío.
estoy como a fish out of water and it's so
Um,
funny. But yeah, no, it's a lot different. Yeah, my grandmother had 12 kids, so I don't know how she did it. And they also, and it's funny because like they lived in a 3-bedroom apartment in Washington Heights in New York, and I live in a 3-bedroom house, and I'm like, oh, I need a bigger house because each kid needs a room. But she wasn't
yeah,
thinking about that. She was like, basically 7 girls in one room and the 5 boys in the other room, in the smaller room.
Yeah, there you go.
that's
Yeah.
I was like,
crazy.
Y
what?
yo aquí, oh, we need a bigger house. And I'm like, we don't.
Yeah.
We don't need a bigger house. But you know what? They
Wait,
survived. Times are different, but they also survived and they made it work for them. And things are different for us. Thank God. Because,
definitely.
porque quién va a sobrevivir así? No. And my grandmother, she used to wear skirts. I've never seen that lady wear pants ever. You're on
Yeah.
mute, Jenny.
You're mute.
Yes.
She always wore
Yes. Oh,
skirts.
so what was no sé cómo la media falda?
Ay, la media falda.
Yeah.
Holy. It's just
Yeah.
straight up but
I've
that was
never seen my
for
grandmother
me
in
it was my
pants.
great grandmother. My grandmother was Fefita. She was la jefa,
I
la resuelve, la que and so she had big independent energy.
yeah.
Pero la mía fue la my bisabuela. Just oh, God bless her. May she rest in peace. She not alive, y'all.
She brought it down.
Yeah.
All right, ladies. Now, ahora, we're going to go to the second
Y
questions.
esa fue la primera pregunta nada más.
No,
I
estamos
know.
encendidas, estamos
I
ahí.
love it. All right, now we know it's not always easy balancing our culture y nuestra metas personally. So, ¿qué consejos le dirían a otras mujeres latinas que están tratando de honrar su cultura?
Pero también seguir su propio camino y ser auténticas con ellas mismas.
It's funny because people are saying like they feel like they're not passing down generational things anymore as
You're right.
time goes on. And I was having this conversation recently with somebody and I was like, "Oh my God, that's so true." And I was like, "We have to ask questions porque la matatana ya la pobre, they're getting older and we have to ask these questions and we have to sit down and listen to these stories." Like I remember during certain gatherings, like we'll sit there and my oldest aunt, she's I mean near 80 in a sense, and she started telling us when she got courted by her husband. And she was telling us, she's like, oh, sí, él vino con un dulce y un dulce para cada mis hermanos. And it was like the most beautiful thing. And I'm like, there's no more courtship.
No.
That's not like a thing anymore. And she was like, no, pero eso era tan bello. Como que él vino and basically buying my love and asking me basically on a date to go eat ice cream or whatever. Girls don't even want ice cream. Or what's the other thing?
Bueno,
What was it that this girl went viral for? Oh my God. It was one of those franchises. Cheesecake Factory. She
Oh
didn't
my
want
God.
no Cheesecake Factory because she didn't want the guy. Yeah, and it's like one of those things. Mira, la tía mía de que con un heladito. Like she got wooed. After that, she started dating him and they got married instantly. I mean, times are different now. Our expectations are higher also, right? But it's one of those things that um we're like, hey, it's okay, girls, to go out on an ice cream date.
Yeah.
You
No,
know,
and I love that you mentioned that because it's so true, Jennifer. And I don't mean to cut you, but I think
go
it's a
ahead.
very powerful conversation because I always see the movies de los 60, los 70, the Grease movies. And I'm like, man, I wish I would have been born in that time because of who I am. Like,
Yeah,
that's the vibe, the romance. But we take for granted now. Like, we don't do that. Same thing with
no,
men. Like, they go out of their way. They don't bring you roses. Like, it's always like special occasions. Like, they don't try to win you anymore. Now it's like
no,
they meet your number, take you on a date if they even, and that's it.
yeah,
Right. So I think it is something that we lack on, and we should consider at some point bringing back that romance. That's why people then used to be together for 20, 40 years, even more. And
yeah.
now
But
too
you
long.
know what? Taboo. The taboo part is that there's a lot of cuernos going on.
Yeah.
There was a lot of cuernos going on back then and a lot of forgiving. And
Yeah.
we're not that forgiving now.
No.
We're not, we're like, red flag, bye.
Yep.
That red flag.
Yeah,
That
for
red
sure.
flag is instant. So back then, because like I mean, not to put my family's business out there,
Never fails.
right? I forgot to put it on silent. What's it called? Back then, coño, se me olvidó my track. I lost
The
my train.
taboo of los cuernos.
Oh, the taboo of the
Yeah.
cuerno. I was like, not to put my family's business out there, but my grandmother raised my grandfather's cuerno in a sense, and ¿quién va a hacer eso?
Yeah, not today.
Dime. Not I, porque dime, porque,
No.
but times are different back then. So right now, it's like one of those things, red flags, but it's also like, you gotta be like, I remember having a conversation with my friend about this. She's a little older, so she was like, oh, okay, okay, I was just asking her, like, do you feel like you would settle now for a relationship in a sense, right? And she was like, well, I wouldn't settle, but the things I would pick back then, now I don't care about. She's like, si veo un hombre con las uñas sucias, ya, red flag y ya se acabó el show. And I'm like, but she's like, now it's one of those things that I look past that. So I'm like, oh, you see? So it's like one of those things that we need to speak to our elders and get in tune with that and maybe not do everything that they did, but we're getting there. We're almost like the elders now. And we got to give these young girls the game too. We're getting there. No estamos tan joven no more. That's it. We
So
gotta
true.
let them know like what's up, what's going on, the younger
Yeah.
generation, like my little cousins, like I try to talk to them, but I'm like, ustedes se van a quedar jamona. Ustedes se van and it's funny because I think about when my mom used to say that if like I didn't learn how to cook, she'll be like, te va a quedar jamona. And I'm like, damn. So I tell my cousins that. And I'm like, y el novio, dime. There's one, shout out to her. She just turned 20. And I'm like, happy birthday, y el novio, ¿pa' cuándo? Okay, I'm like, no, ya 20, ya 20 tú estás. Ya ahorita viene, you turn 20 and after that, you 27 and you don't even know.
Yeah, time
It's also
just
with
flies by.
technology, it's bring that culture down even more. Because now that you mentioned that, and we are on social media, no sé si tú has visto el río de es una rubia ella con unos chocitos, unos tacones. She's like, oh, I look like if I'm gonna go pick up my kids in school, pero está con un crop top, unos chocitos, unos
I
tacones, con
think
un
I've
cap.
seen.
Bonita. Y sale una señora toda like, no, tú sabes, like with sweatpants, a shirt, going, no, you're not. Como que la cultura piensa que ahora oh, you're gonna be a cool, pretty mom con los high heels picking up your kids. Realistically, no, like get off
No.
social media, right? Pero es
Right.
verdad, las expectativas de, especially on social media, you're scrolling
Oh
and you're
yeah.
more in that, like in a fake life of what you think it looks like and to really live it.
It's
Yeah.
fake. It's funny because we're all on social media, right? We're all out here content creating, pero the way it looks on social media, eso es una chulería. Míralo en persona. Ve, búscalo en persona. It's not the same.
No.
It's funny because, okay, me personally, right? So I started putting on this crema on my stomach because I got some stretch marks and stuff, right? Y yo, porque me vi en una fajita. I had a faja on and my belly was still poking, but that's me in my head, right? Y yo subí en esa foto y todavía that belly was poking out. But it makes you think, it made me think, like, you know what? Let me post up these raw pictures para que la gente vea. I just had a baby 6 months ago. And it's okay to have, you're going to have a belly. You got to give yourself grace. And it's like all these little things. But in my head, it's also back to your mom hablándote en el oído. Y esa
Yeah,
barriga. Girl,
yeah.
I just had a baby. Ponte una faja. I just had a
See,
baby. I'm like, I
yeah.
do got a faja on. Like,
Yes.
A mí me
Oh,
regalaron faja for my 2 pregnancies, and I'm like,
oh
okay,
my.
thanks. Like, as the gift, oh, because I know you're gonna need it after. But it
yes.
was like instant, and I'm like, okay. So I did in my first one because I felt forced, like maybe I have to,
Yeah.
because
Maybe there's a
primero
thing. Yeah.
take all the advice in. But then as the second came, I'm like, I'm not putting that on. Y corriendo atrás de otro, y dándole pecho, having to go to the bathroom. No, 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 no.
No.
But it's like, you're right. It's like, coge
Yeah.
la faja.
Mire, yo me puse esa faja y ahora tengo un bruise aquí en los lados. And I'm like, yo creo que that thing poked a rib. I don't know. It's funny because the whole night I was like, this faja feels weird. It feels weird. But I guess I didn't lift it high enough. This is how you know I don't wear fajas often. And I'm like, yeah.
Oh my
But
God.
it's
So
one of those things that it's like a part of it. And it's also one of those things that it's like a part of our culture. Ponte esa faja. Ponte esa faja para que ese jean te quede bien.
You're
yeah,
right.
that was my
And
mother's
I
gift.
just, it's such a nuance, right? Because I had to take a step back and say, ¿cuál es tu womanhood, Jan? Por eso mismo.
Yeah.
Porque, eh, not to make the conversation go another direction, pero, for example, I had miscarriages and I had baby weight, but there
Hmm.
was no baby y la gente se le olvidó. Like me, y pa' cuando. And I remember being in a
Oh no, because
Thanksgiving dinner.
porque Jenny, tú estás gorda. And then
Mhm.
it's like, how dare you sit here?
But and I had to find to see, it's not so much a justification, because becoming a mom is like, okay, you have good intent, but now that I'm becoming the elder, how am I going to pass that down to someone? How do I tell you I care about you? Because before we were mom, we did have an identity. We did have our, as we're navigating these beauty standards, like you and I, Jan, and you ladies, right? We're all defining this. For me, I feel like as a Latina, I want it to be evolvement, because I didn't want to wear the faja. I'm 4 pregnancies in. I'm like, ustedes van a coger cuerpo de yuca hasta que yo feel ready to hit the gym, because my family seen me train. They seen me be 160 and, oh, tú estás llenita, tú estás buena, to getting the pressures of corporate America and going down to 115. Niña, pero ni una empanada te va a meter. No, 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 porque eso tiene gluten.
But yeah,
And so I try to just give permission to just be where
yeah,
you, thank you so much, sir, where you are, where you are. And
I love that.
it's, I love to hear the same stories, but I also like to add, because we have so many options. As first gen, I don't know where you are, ladies, if you're second gen, if you're third gen, but as first gen, I always sought after not so much like an American mom, but a mother figure that had options, to see what that looked like, because our moms, one thing, a taboo was, I didn't want to continue, was putting myself last.
Hmm.
I wanted to put my health at the forefront. I was very proactive about my mental health. And they're like, tú no tienes tiempo para tener depresión. Eso no es de tiempo, vale. Eso pasa y hay que hablarlo para poder salir adelante.
yeah,
And, it's such a constant change, because we have children and we ourselves, we're aging by the grace of God. So even navigating that, I like to ask them, how did you guys deal with arruga? Or how did you guys deal with the gray hair? Lo tinte, ese tinte nos faltaba.
ay,
Yeah.
mama,
Yeah.
And I used to look, I'm like, pero te ves tan beautiful. And I don't know if you want to tap into the rizo, pero y esos rizo gris, so beautiful. And trying to speak life into the generation that's aging while ourselves aging, while fostering the youth, like, hey, it's okay to evolve.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And let me show you how. Mira, mira brilla labio que te tiene la vitamina, tú sabes. And so it's just constantly embracing the
Yeah.
change and the evolution. I feel like that's what my womanhood is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like also like for I mean also keeping the old generation and the new generation in line. Like Jenny was saying, like, no, porque ahora yo estoy moderna. Like you gotta keep your mom modern. Like you gotta keep I keep my mom intact. I'm like, girl.
Ya tú
No
no
te
tienes que
ponga el
quitarlo,
yeah,
estúpido.
right? You gotta let her know, yeah, give her the ropes and stuff. And then the new generation too, right? Because
Yeah.
then after that, then it's gonna be us. We're gonna need some pointers,
That's
Yeah.
right.
100%.
Yeah.
right? I mean, we got a couple of generations to go, but we're gonna need some pointers eventually.
And
Todavía,
even
todavía.
this,
Todavía no da, tenemos un tiempecito, di que estamos jóvenes todavía, espérate.
even
Yeah.
having this career, right? I went from, igual que Jeanette, from corporate to a creative opportunity. You know, it was so beautiful to witness the resistance, the curiosity, the acceptance, and the celebration.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I love to see other, like the Latina moms that add their moms, like you, Jen, when you bring your mom in, because it's like my mom refuses to be on camera.
My
I'm like,
mom, she's a little weird about it, but so don't
girl,
worry.
we would have made the lottery, okay, pero está bien, porque uno ve lo neflecito, que si el and you see that the people that we grew up around, the
Yeah.
taboo that we grew up around, are now main characters in slowly but surely making them way in the mainstream. So I tell them, apoyen los videitos, porque entonces usted no lo quiere hacer, lo estoy haciendo yo, vamos para adelante.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's
Mhm.
true. You got to keep pushing. You got to keep doing it. I mean, even if you want, it's funny because, but I feel like I resonated con Janet también porque entonces I always, so I used to model when I lived in New York in my 20s. Coño, ahora me estoy poniendo vieja. In my
Ah,
20s,
Hey,
ya me estoy
señora,
poniendo viejita. In my 20s, I used to model. Then when I had kids, I kind of stopped, and then I started doing content creating. But also with that thing on my shoulder telling me, don't ever quit your job because it's like, um, yeah, this is what that thing, that dream that you have is not realistic because we all had that dream and nobody made that dream possible. And I'm like, that dream is possible. That dream is possible. Sometimes you do have to, go through your corporate America in order to
okay.
pay for that dream in a sense, and a lot of us have done it. Like I'm still doing it. I have a 9 to 5, and most of us do here. So it's like one of those things that is like, if you have to do that, it's okay to do that. But then if you also want, like for example, my friend took theater. My parents would never let me take theater. Está loca. They
Yeah,
get
you can't
theater
get
as my major.
deja tú ahí en el cuarto tuyo.
Is or a chef. They would.
Oh God,
That is
yeah.
not a thing.
Yeah.
You're right. So true.
For them, that is not a thing. ¿Cómo que chef? Yo soy una chef. Mira, yo te hago un huevo, un mangú ahí, un tres golpes, lo que sea. So it's
You don't
like
need
one
to
of those, right? Like un chef, pero el mexicano que vive allí, él un chef, y él nunca fue por la escuela, so they think like stuff like that. And it's like, no, I'm like, there's ways to, maybe he is a chef, right? But maybe I want to be a top chef, and maybe I have to take this thing to be a top chef and to learn how to do these things at a different level,
And
right?
I wanted to pursue those things. I wanted to do modeling,
Yeah.
acting, singing, and not that they didn't. So a little backstory: yo me crié en Puerto Rico with my aunt when my mom migrated to United States to arreglar, tú sabes, su vida. Y ella me llevaba to the casting y eso me prendía a mí un bombillito. Don't let it be a 15 o a baby shower. Póngame a Mili Quesada. Ahí tengo el micrófono y llegó Jenny. But they didn't know none of the entertainment world. So there was no way to say, okay, let's get you a casting agent, esto y esto y esto. Son sueños que se han quedado, bueno, si las redes sociales me llevan, pues me llevan, pero I'm able to see, okay, that little bombillito is in me for a reason because I hop on these podcasts or I turn on my camera and I do it without a script. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, esto es un regalo de Dios y hay que sembrar la semilla para que it
Yeah.
goes, it blooms. But it's for me, it's not so much a voice, it's almost like that ghost stuff, but nobody has done it. So
Yeah, that goes
there's
back
no
to
way
that.
around it, girl. Keep dreaming.
You right?
Yeah.
Pero entonces
And
también, like, when I would pursue my stuff and I tended, like, they will repost me, they were so excited, they were like my number one fan, but still in the back of the head, like in family gathering and stuff, it was always the same questions. Okay, ay, qué lindo todo, mucha felicidad, qué linda te ves, ay, te ganaste este premio, ay, qué lindo. But then it'll be like, y entonces, do you have a job? And I'm like, this is my career. Like, I'm trying to build a career out of this. So no entendían. So it's that pressure too that I feel, especially in today's generation. It's, I don't know if I can be successful. Like, my parents, like, they don't support me because they think that that's fake,
Yeah.
or they have trust issues in the industry, and I get it. But it affects us a lot because nosotras tenemos ese sueño y esa pasión, and not having that support system can affect you. And eventually, some people do settle and they
Yeah.
don't even try to be content creator. They don't even try to submit themselves to a video. Like, I remember going to singing classes, my dad would take me, but then I started getting discouraged because of the support around me,
Mm.
of getting back home and not feeling that. But I would still always pursue it, which I always had that within me, and I always had the connections, and thankfully the opportunity God gifted me with. But it was hard coming from a root that didn't believe that you're able to make it.
Yeah.
and it's so funny how she get her banana. And it's funny because for me, my biggest cheerleader was my mother. But when I became, so I'm a full time tax accountant. And then during the pandemic, or right before, I became a doula because I have such a passion for the holistic industry. So I got certified and I did it for 2 years. But it's funny because she was my biggest cheerleader, but she fully didn't understand why I was transitioning from a tax accountant to a doula. It's like that voice behind behind me saying, y eso te hace dinero, right? Like, is that
Always.
going to give you
Y
enough money?
mucho.
Yeah.
So, yeah, true.
And it's like, well, it's not the same, but you build up to it slowly. Eventually, I stopped doing it, not because of the pressure. I had my little one at home, so it was just too much because you're on call like 24 hours. But to go back to that, it's funny because sometimes your parents are your biggest cheerleaders, but they don't fully understand, and then there's always like that voice behind you saying like, but that's not a real job, is that going to get you enough money? So it's just funny how they play both roles at the same time
Sure.
because they don't know any better, right? They grew up in a generation like we've talked about where that's all they've known, right? Because they
Yeah.
didn't have those opportunities growing up.
That
So
is so true. Like my
yeah.
mom, she believes it now, di que porque people recognize me in the streets. She's
Ay,
like, oh, but tú eres famosa de verdad. And I'm like, I mean, people know me.
y eso es lo que yo iba a decir, que their metrics just look different. Yo
Yeah.
me acuerdo waiting for my acceptance letter to NYU at my mom's house, and I get it, and I'm crying. Dice ella, ¿de qué tú estás llorando? ¿Quieres drama? Yo digo, pero tú
It's
tienes
a
un
big
bebé.
deal. They don't know it's a big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tú tienes, y cuando, and I had to, in that moment, I met her where she was, but I'm like, oh, these metrics it's completely new to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And con las redes sociales igual. Yo le dije that I was going to do a podcast. Yo digo, ven para que me cuide a los niños. Bueno, pues está bien, nos vemos después ahorita. So I'm like, it's such a it's an interesting place to navigate,
Yeah.
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 to say the least.
And
Yeah.
I love what you said, Jenny, about getting to her level, like understanding that. And a lot of people don't do that because, in a way, like, we have to be selfish sometimes, and we're like, but why can't you be happy for me? But understanding that we don't come from that family. Like, most of us, we don't come from that generation of entrepreneurship, content creation. Like, they see people online, and my mom is constantly strolling on TikTok buying all this stuff, and she's like, I get no tengo tiempo para eso. And I'm like, you're scrolling 24/7. You do. She says que ella no tiene cara para eso, but she's constantly on TikTok making money
Yeah.
to people, right? But it's that mindset of like, I was there before, mom. I showed you how much money I've made. Ay, sí, sí, pero yo no puedo. But it's just that mindset that sometimes we can't break and we can't force.
Yeah.
And representation is so important. When Chiqui Bombón made it to the stuff that they watch, I'm like, tú ves, ojo,
Allá voy
mira, and my son's giving me the mic. Ojo, vale, que esa es la, like, that's right. Trying to make that connection for them, like, que tú sabes, ok, no es como la línea de una doctora, pero es la línea de lo que the option that you create. I'm sorry for the banana, for the option that you guys created. Ustedes nos trajeron aquí para la opción, déjame enseñarte, para que goce el momento, porque yo no quiero. Entonces, si Dios lo permite y me dan un award, tú vas a tener el award así. Because that's how it was when I made it to government. I had won this distinction, and I was like, "Do you understand what's happening?" She was like, "No, pero está bien."
Felicidades, amor. Like,
Yo digo, voy a tener que traer a la funda del dinero para que ella diga, ok, llega.
Una mansión, es la mansión que tú tienes que traer. That's the only
so
way.
it's that mindset, as much as we
Yeah.
try. Le mandaba mi mamá fotos cuando estaba like backstage and doing all this stuff with all these celebrities. She's like, ay, qué bien, pero tú ten cuidado. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like what? But it's just the mindset, it's so hard. But yeah, that they support you, but at the same time, they're still like on the fence. It
Yeah.
happens to all of us, yeah, especially our culture right now.
And I always say too, in regards to that, I'm like, always be gentle. Be gentle to your parents, no matter if they're Latino, if they're not. They're also getting a little older. You have to be gentle and understand. Like for us, it's a little different because they don't know this world. This world is new to them. So it's like I'm always like, be gentle. When I do my content and some people are like, oh my God, my mom is just like that and it's so annoying. I'm like, be gentle to her. Like she don't know and she thinks this is like the right thing to do. And maybe show her my video so she could see herself in
Yeah.
this in a different light.
It's so
That's
true.
funny that you say that because my mom always forgets her Apple ID password.
Oh my
And
God.
the other day I was getting so frustrated. So what you just said, be gentle, girl, you're preaching to me. Cause I'm like, Ma, like you don't remember your password?
And she's like, ¿y cuál es el password? ¿Cuál es ese?
Oh,
She's like,
Y tú no lo
oh,
tienes en la computadora, en el teléfono tuyo, eso
yeah.
está ahí, yo no sé.
Yeah, she's like, you did it, like you try it. So I was
But
like
you
getting
always, like, for me, I always write the same three passwords for them. So I have
oh,
three passwords that I write the same. If I do it, I'm like, yo no lo hice, fuiste tú que lo hiciste. Or somebody else did it for you. Because if I did it, I use these three passwords and the three of them aren't working. So
but it's funny because I was getting like really frustrated because
annoyed,
it was
yeah.
working. She was getting mad at me because I couldn't figure out her password. And then at one point I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna be calm because like you said, this is a new world for them, right? And iPhone is completely new to them. They're not used to that.
Yeah.
So it's just so funny.
And I had a very humbling experience with system, with the Medicaid system. So yo me fui a estudiar, tú sabes, and my mom always asks me for help. I'm like, pero que eso, ya tú sabes inglés, tú sabes. And I found myself in the system, and I called her, Doña, es verdad, esto no es fácil. Y yo hablo inglés. So, I love Jen and all of you guys. Like, continue to create your content because you guys are representation and you guys bring the silver lining of how difficult this life really is.
Yeah.
It really is. It's
Yeah.
a
It's
lot.
like you said, it's difficult for us that we speak English. Imagine for them that this is their second language. But my mom be out here lying to people. She's like, no, porque tradúceme ahí. She be translating at work. And I'm like, mírate a ti translating. Y tú dices que no habla inglés. And she's like, tú sabes que yo hablo como se fue Vergara. And I was like, ma. She's like, el inglés mío.
Oh, man. I know we touched a little bit about redefining Latina womanhood. So I think Jeanette will have one more question, right? Because I know we touched a lot about the redefining womanhood.
Sí.
So we'll get into that second topic.
Okay.
So being a Latina woman, oh, sorry, you were going to say something?
No, 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 go for it.
Being a Latina woman many means so many different things to many of us, and we're here to challenge those traditional roles that society often tries to box us into.
So, Jenny and Jennifer, ¿cómo definirían ustedes hoy en día lo que es ser una mujer latina? ¿Y qué significa para ustedes romper con esos roles de género tradicionales que muchas veces nos imponen? Going back to our roots.
Entro yo, Jenny.
Dale.
Para mí es el balance and finding that I can balance it. I can be myself and hold on to my identity. I can be a great mother. I can be a great partner. No soy esposa, partner.
Por ahí vamos.
I can be, okay. And I can be a great daughter. And I don't have to burn out. I don't have to give up on myself.
Love that.
If I give myself grace, which oftentimes our mothers didn't give themselves grace, and kindness to ourselves, I'm able to evolve and continue to be greatness. So that's what it means to me.
That's
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah, that was beautiful.
And for me, I feel like I'm gonna piggyback off of Jenny, but also like being a Latina and doing it all, but also asking for help. Because I think it's one of those things that we don't ask for help, and it's
Yeah.
okay to be like, "Oh, I need help scrubbing this bathroom, this bathtub. I need help with these kids." It's okay to do that because I think taking it on from our ancestors in a sense and our moms and everything else, they did it all. They cooked, they cleaned, they took care of kids, took them to school, did it all. And then also worked. Cause like my mom also worked and my dad also worked, but she did 100% in the house also. And it's interesting because recently I seen it was a podcast and the girl was saying, you can't say it's 50-50 because it's not 50-50. Yeah, maybe our bills could be 50-50, but at home, it's not 50-50. And it's one of those things because I think we tend not to ask for help. And I'm always like, oh, I need help. Because if not, then I'm going to be upset. Like, and I'm not the person that likes to argue. So I just shut down. Y me pongo brava y
Too.
and it's like, what's wrong with you? Why you so quiet? Porque yo hablo tanto que es like, ahora está la mujer calladita. ¿Qué le pasó?
¿Qué pasa? Hay que correr.
Right? So I'm just quiet, and it's like questions start coming, and I'm like, yeah, if you want, and it's like the one word answers, and it's like that's not the way to go. We need help, and it's okay to ask for that. And I know for me, I'm like, yo lo hago todo, pero también, y yo sé que yo puedo cambiar una goma a lo mejor. Pero am I gonna do it? No. I'll ask for help.
Yes, having that village is
Yeah.
so important.
And
Yeah.
you don't have to be this like, you could be independent, but you don't have to be this I'm super independent, this super independent Latina, and nobody could stop me. You know? Do as much as you can, porque si no te va a ahogar mi hija. Te va a sofocar toda la vaina.
It's so true.
Yeah.
No, you ustedes pretty much answer our next question because it builds that confidence, right? It comes
Oh
from
yeah.
within. Like, dos cosas que mencionaron ustedes, because it happened to me, because of growing up and we do it all. There was a time that I'm like, okay, I needed to clean the house. I needed to do this. I hire a cleaning lady, right? And
Oh, that's
my
girl.
mom was like, ay, pero ahí viene.
Girl.
I'm like, mom, what do you mean? It was only like this amount of money. Like, me está ayudando because I feel stressed out. No, pero me hubiese dado dinero a mí, yo te lo hubiese hecho. But,
Yeah.
it's that mindset of like, okay. So it's hard, but if you have to do it, like, don't, like, do it.
That's
Right?
asking
Because
for help right there. Yeah.
asking for help, it might not last forever, but in that moment and time and place, you need it.
And then also
And
like for
we
your
are
mom.
all going to agree here. It's okay. We are going to normalize asking for help.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's
And for
okay.
your mom, ya ella se está poniendo viejita. Like you don't want her. If you could barely do it, what makes you think that you want her to do it? And I think they don't think like that. They
They
think
do it
like,
because they want you to save money. They want you to, ask them in a way, but it's like I'm trying to do this so I can have more time free to do other stuff or take care of the things that matter. And
yeah.
same thing with spouse, right? It's like ask for help. We don't ask for help, but then como Jennifer, nos ponemos brava. But then how do they know that? Like, why didn't you ask? ¿Para qué si tú no lo vas a hacer?
No
And it's like
son,
creating an
no,
issue without even
yeah.
asking.
No son
I
brujos, no son brujos.
Exactly. Like I was at an event once and I remember one of the speakers sharing that she was mad at her husband, mad, 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 mad. He said, but what happened? Oh no, because you didn't help me with this. And he says, did I know? Y se tuvo que quedar callada. She's like, in
Yeah.
that moment, I had to like, you're right. But still, us, we tend to like fight and be aggressive, right?
Yeah.
Have to, but there's a time and place. Like maybe we have to sit down and talk to our spouse that we need help, or get that cleaning lady, or hire a part time nanny, right? All within your budget and your needs, but don't be scared. It doesn't make you less of a woman or less of a mom or a wife or any of those roles.
Aunque estamos las dos aquí con muchachos. Yo y Jenny.
No, pero
But
es que,
it's okay. It's okay. You
but
know?
other times you don't have it. And if you do,
Yeah.
but I think that's our issue. We want to handle it all, but we can ask for help. And I think that's
Yeah.
what we're scared of, that people would judge us, or what would they think? I'm not going to be a good mom if somebody's taking care of my kids, or
Yeah.
somebody's in the house is my
And I
husband.
Or
battle
like, what would my
I battle
ancestors
with
think?
that. I battle with that a long time as a content creator. I've been doing this for 3 years, right? And it wasn't until I had a breakdown because I was trying to do it all.
Yeah.
It was a point that my family couldn't drop everything that they were doing to be there for me. And I'm like, but why can y'all support me? And a friend of mine, as I'm crying to her, she's like, it's okay to hire help so you can be the best mom. Because I was finding myself so unhappy, right? All of the emotions, because all I wanted to do was get my mic out and hit my record and pursue this with so much passion. And the joy, y'all, the joy of having support. Because another taboo is, for me, I don't have all of my extended family here. I don't have a village. I have friends, I have great associates, but not I had to come to terms that I don't have Thea down the street and mommy right here. And it's beautiful to see, but y'all, a hard pill to swallow when I was in the I'm like, pero todos los videos que yo vi de las mujeres, que la mamá le agarra a los muchachitos para que ella grabe y el esposo le da los chelitos para que ella compre la producción, y yo ahogándome,
Yeah.
had no one to help. And it was in those moments that you're like, okay, what's the best for everyone?
Yeah.
I could get some help.
Yeah.
I could get some help.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah. And I'm glad that you shared it because there's so many women out there doing content nowadays with a 9 to 5 as a mom, as a wife. And it's hard to take those hats off, and be in different roles. But you guys are inspiring the way to showcase them that you have dreams, you have a real life, but you also have a dream that you want to pursue, and that it's okay, to figure it out. Los míos
Yeah.
están en la escuela ahora, por eso, si no estuvieran aquí corriendo, because right now at the moment I didn't have anyone, right? But it's realistically speaking, like Cynthia has hers that's sleeping, but he's sick, pobrecito, right? But it's
Yeah.
those things that people don't realize because they only see us recording now. And if you
Yeah.
guys didn't have your kids, they think, oh, they're content creators making so much money, they're pulling it off. But no, it's like the real raw conversations that people out there, especially the ones starting, need to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
And
I
it's
think people also
unspeakable.
think like, oh, you're making so much money because your video went viral. No, no, that's not how it works.
Like that.
That's, that's not how it works. It doesn't work like that. For some people, it might work like that because they're already set up. But when you're first starting, it doesn't work that way. And
Es
it's
verdad.
like, it's great because it opens up more doors for you. It opens up these conversations. It opens up people you meet, stuff like that. Pero eso es para largo. Eso no es para ahora.
That's why you see the reels of girls que dicen, "Oh, I'm here. I just posted a video, only 200 likes. I'm waiting to go viral." That's
Yeah.
all they're looking for, thinking that's going to be the hit. No, you
Yeah.
Yeah.
can just viral video and you still can't make the money that you think you are.
Yeah.
It's like this collaborating partnerships that is really going to get you out there. But
Yeah.
I think that's the world we live in now. So the first is stand out makes a difference for yourself and for those that are watching you. I think it's
Yeah,
beautiful.
I agree.
All right, so we're gonna wrap it up, right, Jeanette? So we
Yes.
have one last fun segment.
Pero antes de hermosa.
La que siempre tiene algo que decir de lo que estamos haciendo o de lo que no estamos haciendo. Entonces, amigas, it's time to spill the tea. ¿Qué les dijo su tía chismosa esta vez?
Cuéntanos todo. Let us know. I'm excited.
I'm excited. One thing that pops up to your mind that your tía chismosa told you.
Genuinely.
Man, I'm over here like, whew,
So
la
many of
tía
them.
chismosa. I mean, you know what they always say. You know when you show up to the Thanksgiving dinner or Christmas, whatever. You know the question if you show up by yourself. Pero ahora es diferente, ahora es diferente. ¿Y el novio para cuándo? O la novia, porque uno nunca sabe.
Así es, ¿verdad? ¿Verdad?
Porque uno nunca sabe, you know that. So that's usually the thing if you go to any place. For me, I'm married now, so I don't got to deal with that anymore. Thank you, Lord. Gracias
Siempre,
a Dios.
it's always something.
But now the next generation, they're dealing with that. Y el novio o la novia,
Ajá,
estamos en los tiempos diferentes. Tú sabes, no se puede. You can't, you can't forget about that.
there. For me now, because I have the marriage, I have the kids. It's either how I look or my hair. Because yo siempre me
Yeah.
ahora I'm back to red, but I'm always changing my color.
Oh,
So
yeah.
te cambiaste el pelo, ay, pero que el rubio te queda más lindo. No, pero el rojo te queda bonito. Entonces me lo cambio para negro. Ay, sí, porque el rojo, no, el negro te queda mejor. So it's always like that conversation. Igual que me, like I've always been like in health, nutrition. Ay, pero no te pongas más flaca ya que te me vas a desaparecer.
Ay, es así.
I feel
That's
happy.
the one. Or
Right? Siempre es like esas pullitas que you know that like they mean well, but they're really like speaking loud.
Yeah, that's how it is for me too, because the same, married with kids, so I get there. Ah, pues tú estás bien, tú te ves bien, meaning I'm chubby, you know,
Yeah.
I gain weight. When they say that, tú te ves bien, and then if I lose weight, ay, y tú estás bien, porque tú te ves un poquito flaquita. It's like you cannot win with them. It's either you've gained weight and you look good, or you lost weight and something's wrong with you. So that's how it is for me when I show up to holidays.
So true.
Pues para mí, como el topic, como I decided, for those of you who are tuning in, I focus my brand on just myself. So the topic of conversation, ¿y cuál es el trabajo nuevo? Ya te llegó la influencer.
Ay, sí.
¿Y los chequecitos? ¿Cuándo tú me vas a traer uno de los productitos que tú estás promocionando?
Yo te doy promoción.
But if I say, oh, que volvió el gobierno, sí, porque mira, tú sabes que eso es para algo y yo sé que tú tienes el talento, pero,
So
you
true.
know, so it's always around what are you doing? Are you famous yet? When are you taking us with you? La
No te
alfombra
olvides de
roja.
mí cuando llegues a la cima.
Cuando te veo en la televisión, yo digo, bueno, de la boca de usted para donde Dios, porque...
Es verdad. Oh, my God.
Y el negocito. El negocio, muy bien, gracias a Dios.
I love that, because eso te da inspiración a todo que nos está viendo, que you're not alone. Like, I know family gathering are coming up, the holidays, y uno se sienta siempre como que, ay, me van a preguntar esto, me van a decir esto, or I'm not where I thought I was from last holiday, so ahora va a venir esa pregunta, pues sé que hay ciertos familiares que se ven solamente en special occasions, o como dice mi mamá, cuando hay un funeral. Porque si no son los holidays, es un funeral que la familia siempre se reúne. So it's those intense conversations that you're like, okay, I'm not ready to see certain people and face this conversation. So your reminder, no estás sola. We're all going through it. We're all preparing for those questions.
Yes, we
And
all
I
have
want to say one
that.
last thing.
Of course.
Thank you that you share that. You think they're not watching, baby. You think they're not watching, because dijiste funeral y yo fui al mío y dice, ay, pero tu video llegan a redes. Ah, pues te están viendo.
Y mi like.
Y mi like. So keep going.
Yeah, I
because
love that.
they're watching.
They are watching all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Chicas, I love that.
This was so good. Thank you so much. And I'll open it to both of you guys to share your socials, any new projects that you guys have coming up. So please do share anything you guys want to share.
So for those who know me, don't know me, again, I'm Jennifer Maria Lee. My social media across the board is underscore Jennifer Maria. That's with an A at the end, no, not Marie. Again, rayita abajo, Jennifer Maria. And any new projects that I'm working on currently, I am not working on new projects. I do have a few brand deals that I'm working on. I did acquire a new content creating manager, so that's exciting because that opens up more doors. And hopefully, like in the next year, like quien sabe if I'm like a full time content creator. That because that's the that's the goal at the end.
For sure. Qué rico. Amen.
Awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Eso, vecina. Congratulations. Ay, that brings me so much joy. Entonces, mi gente, my name on social medias is She is Jenny Contreras across all platforms, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. And future projects, Aguaya la Yuca. A lot of content. The holidays are here. By the grace of God, I thought about quitting all of this, but Amazon influencer accepted me. So, woohoo! Vamos a darle con todo, a
No
subir el
kidding.
contenido. And really, my focus is to continue to bring Afro Latina joy across all platform, and for my people to feel seen in the curly community, in the fashion community, and in all communities, right? Lifestyle, because it's important that you see yourself in these different spaces. If you look us up, you know that we've done many, many things. So feel free to reach out to us. Our DMs are open. I know mine is. And I can't wait to connect with everyone that felt represented, and pa'lante como Vicente.
Oh, that's
Así mismo.
been a pleasure to have you and for Cynthia to be co-hosting this with you. I think this is such a beautiful conversation we had today, and you ladies are inspiring so many lives. Believe it or not, como mismo dijiste, Jenny, like you never know who's watching you. Keep going. I'm glad you didn't give up because I feel that when we are so close to giving up, that's when the breakthrough comes and another opportunity comes. Just keep going. And even if we don't get to be the famous person we aspire to continue to touch lives, we're doing something that we're passionate about. And if we impact one person along the way, that's everything. So I think it's beautiful.
Yes, thank you, ladies, so much for saying yes. Your yes means a lot and is changing so many lives. Thank you so
Yes,
much.
thank you. Thank you, ladies, for putting this together. I really, really appreciate it. And I'm
Yes.
so excited. Can't wait for the future conversations.
I'm so
Yes.
Eso.
And thank you so much to our listeners.
Okay, bye.
Bye.